Hello everyone, welcome back. In the previous session, already we have started discussion about Dbms features. Okay, we'll see the next feature, a very important one, security. Okay, security plays very important role. Okay, security contains authentication and authorization. Okay, so before going to start discussion about what is authentication and what is authorization, first what security means. Okay, what security means? It is being free from danger. Okay, it is being free from danger. Okay, next what database security means? What DB security means? DB or database security means it is the mechanism to protect database. Database security is the mechanism to protect database, against intentional or accidental threats. Okay, so that is about security and database security. Okay, right. What is authentication? Authentication means identification of user. Authentication means identification of user. Okay, authentication is the process of verifying. Authentication is the process of verifying who the user is. Who the user is. Or who are you? Who are you? Okay, is it clear? Authentication is verifying a user's identity, right? So is it clear? Authentication means what? Identification of user. Authentication is the process of verifying a user's identity. Here the question is, how authentication is verifying a user's identity? By using login form. Okay, by using login form, authentication checks whether the user is already registered or not. By using login form, authentication will check whether the user is already registered or not. Authentication will not allow, authentication does not allow anonymous user or unregistered user to connect with to connect with the database. Okay, is it clear? Authentication doesn't allow, it does not allow anonymous user or unregistered user to connect with the database. That means authentication allows, okay, it allows only registered users to connect with the database. So is it clear? What is authentication? Authentication means identification of user. By using login page or login form, authentication will check whether the user is already registered user or not. Authentication will not allow, or authentication doesn't allow anonymous user or unregistered user to connect with the database. That means it allows only registered users to connect with the database. Okay, so that is about authentication. Okay, who are you? Next, coming to authorization. What is authorization? And one more pointer, authentication is done before authorization. Authentication is done before authorization. For example, here when you log on to website, the website verifies your username and password. Okay, when you log on to website, the website verifies your username and password. So that is called authentication. Okay, and authentication is done before authorization. Okay, right. What is authorization? Authorization will check user permissions. Authorization will check what? User permissions. Okay, so authorization will check users permissions or rights. Okay, if the user has rights or if the user has permissions, then only he can work with the database. Okay, so clear? Authorization will check users permissions or rights. Okay, authorization will check users permissions or rights. If the user has rights or permissions, then only he can work with what? Database. Okay, if the user has permissions or rights, then the user can work with the database. Okay, so what are the permissions here? Read permission, read, insert, update, delete, all these are what? Permissions or privileges. Okay, so that is about authorization. Okay, so clear? Authorization will check users permissions or rights. If the user has rights or permissions, then the user can work with the database. Okay, in other words, what is authorization? It will, so authorization means what permissions do you have? It will check, authorization will check what permissions do you have. Okay, or in other words, authorization is the process of verifying what specific applications, files and data a user has access to. Okay. What specific applications, files and data a user has access to. So that is about authorization. So is it clear for all of you? What is authentication? Identification of user. Authorization means it will check user's permissions. Authentication does not allow unregistered users or anonymous users to connect with the database. That means it allows only registered users to connect with the database. Okay. So by using login page, authentication will check whether the user is registered user or unregistered user. It allows only registered users to connect with the database. Okay. It doesn't allow unregistered users or anonymous users to connect with the database. Okay. Who are you? Next, authorization will check user's permissions or rights. If the user has rights, then only can work with the database. Okay. So authorization will check what permissions do you have. Okay. Who are you? Who are you? And here, what permissions do you have? Rights. So that is about authentication and authorization. Okay. Rights. Next feature of Dbms, database integrity. Database integrity, next feature. Right. So let's see an example of EMP table, employee table. Okay. So in the given table, employee number, employee name, DOJ, okay, means date of joining. Okay. Employee number, employee name, date of joining are the column names. Okay. Right. Date of joining or hire date. Hire date. So here employee number 1001, employee name, some name. Okay. Next date of joining 31st February 2019. Okay. Date. Next followed by time. Okay. 10 hour 67 minute 00 seconds. Okay. So is it valid data? No, it is not valid data. It is invalid data because of 31st February. 31st February. Okay. Invalid. Next time 67 minutes. 67 minute. Okay. Invalid. Okay. So here this table contains invalid data. Invalid data. Okay. So here point is, if table maintains data integrity, data integrity, not okay, data integrity. If table maintains data integrity, then valid or meaningful data can be stored into the table. Got my point? Okay. So if table maintains data integrity, then valid or meaningful data can be stored in the table. Okay. So this can be done, data integrity. Okay. This feature can be done by using constraints. Okay. So this feature can be achieved with the help of constraints. Okay. So what are constraints? We'll see in the next coming session with examples. Okay. Right. So what are constraints? Unique, not null, primary key, foreign key, check, default, all these are what? Constraints. So constraints are used to give conditions. Constraints are used to give conditions or validations or rules on the table, so that valid or meaningful data can be stored in the table. Okay, so we'll see about constraints in detail, okay, with examples in the next sections. Okay, so in this session I covered two features: security and data integrity. Next, one more feature, next feature, atomicity. Okay, already we covered this feature in the previous session. What is atomicity? What is transaction? Okay, what are acid properties? So transaction will work with acid properties, atomicity, consistency, isolation, durability, and what is transaction management? Okay, all these we covered in the previous session already. Okay, so that's all now. So this is about DBMS features. Okay, thank you for watching.